Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome once again to the HEAnet Conference. We just have some housekeeping that we want to go through. So just please take note of your nearest emergency exits, and if you could, as a matter of courtesy, please turn off your mobile phone or switch it to silent mode. The code to join Slido, a number of the presentations will have Slido, and you can ask questions via Slido. The code is available in the app and in the slide deck there, and the Twitter or platform X handle is available. So without further ado, I'm just going to welcome our CEO, Ronan Byrne, onto the stage for the CEO address. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and good morning, Killarney. Good morning, Killarney. Okay, wonderful audience. Just to note that we were expecting the Minister to arrive very shortly, but she's just delayed due to some traffic congestion on foot, about a wee accident, nothing alarming. She will be here with us shortly. So I'd just like to give you the warmest of welcomes to Killarney for the 2023 HEAnet Conference, and a big shout out to everyone joining on the live stream at home as well. I'd like to thank Dell Technologies for the wonderful entertainment last night. Really appreciate that. And as I'll keep saying, we can't do this event without the sponsorship. So thank to each and every sponsorship here, and please do go visit those exhibition pieces. Okay, I'm going to go crack on into my little piece, if you bear with me, and then the Minister will join, and I'll invite her to the stage at that stage. Okay, so isn't it great to be back in our November slot yet again? Woohoo! And I hope this suggests that we've returned to more normal times, fingers and toes firmly crossed, for it was 18 months ago in March that I stood up on this very stage, and we were only, 2 or 3 weeks out of COVID, I think. But what a difference 18 months makes. And permit me to paint a little retrospective of the 18 months. So on the education front, we've seamlessly moved from providing education fully remotely to providing the expected blend of remote and on-campus provision seamlessly. So kudos to all those out here and other elsewhere who have managed a safe return to campus over the 22-23 academic year, and all that entails. We have 2 more technological universities established in the past 18 months, ATU in April 22 and SETU in May 22, bringing our total to 5, of course. This summer, we saw 63,500 Leaving Cert students sitting a state exam for the first time, because they couldn't sit it in their junior cert due to COVID constraints. And just a nod of appreciation to Dalton Tatton and his team at the Department of Education for continuing with that. Very good. I'm going to do a little pause on that. So I'll come back to that retrospective, because I believe the Minister is now with us. And without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to invite our Minister of Education, Minister Norma Foley, to officially open the conference. Please, Minister. Thank you.
Díomh go léir is an uirmhór domsa mar ara I dtacais feithin so, agus bhfuil mar dús má bhuiachas a gháil is ocht an cuire, agus is ocht an ama, agus an deise a thuirtam, chun búla live agus chun leabhart live inniuh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a very great pleasure for me as Minister for Education to join you all here this morning. Could I begin by saying that was probably one of the longest walks I've ever done to get to a conference podium, but I do appreciate it. I want to apologise for being late. There was considerable traffic this morning, and unfortunately there was an accident also on the road. So I apologise for delaying your start of conference. Could I also say that I am immeasurably proud that you have chosen my home county for this conference. You know, with the modesty of only Kerry people, we say here in the Kingdom that a day out of Kerry is a day wasted. So I really do want to thank everyone involved, your CEO, Ronan, your chair, Professor Michael Murphy, and the Director of School Zone, and everybody involved for the exquisite realism in recognising the beauty of the Kingdom and the potential of the Kingdom when it comes to discussion, debate and analysis. So thank you very much so for being here. I'm very, very pleased that this is a conference which brings together professionals, researchers and experts from the education and research community in Ireland. Indeed, I understand that this is the first year attending for many from third-level institutions served by HEAnet through their extensive portfolio of services, including internet connectivity and IT shared services. Plato always tells us that nothing ever is, it is always becoming. It behoves each one of us, individually and collectively in the organisations and groups that we represent, to every day, I believe, to seek to be more, to do more, to become more, particularly so in the best interests of society. And I believe that really is the raison d'etre for conferences of this nature. So I have been truly, truly fascinated to see the range of topics that you are going to discuss and deliberate upon. I noticed instantly the reference to the great Kerry man Tom Crean, one of Ireland's greatest explorers. And it is fitting that he now has a state-of-the-art research vessel named after him, the RV Tom Crean. And I'm sure you will all be interested to hear about the significant impact it is having. We are all so very aware too of the importance of cybersecurity, particularly after the devastating cyber attack on the HSE in 2021. That is why your workshop to share information on key cybersecurity topics is so very important. We want to keep all our public services, including our schools and colleges and further education institutions, safe from cyber attacks. I am aware also you will be discussing University College Cork's project to create a digitally connected campus. We all know that there has been a big push in the public sector to shift from paper-based processes to digital-based processes. My own Department of Education has played a key role in ensuring that teachers and staff can now receive e-pay slips instead of printed ones, saving money and, equally importantly, improving on efficiency. One of the challenges I have faced as Minister for Education is dealing with crisis events. Thankfully, they are not regular occurrences, but none of us in the education sector will ever forget the impact of COVID-19. Indeed, I would say none of us in society or across the world will forget the impact of COVID-19. Yet, importantly, we have learned so much from that crisis. And I note that this conference is also going to examine the Halifax explosion of 1917. Many people have not heard of this explosion, but it involved a collision between two Navy boats which set off a blast 1/5 the scale of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The blast killed 1,600 people instantly, and 9,000 people were injured. I know the aim of the session is to learn from the Halifax explosion, how to avoid and deal with accidents. It may be a long time ago, but there are always lessons to be learned. I'm not at all surprised to see that artificial intelligence is on the agenda of this conference. For the Department of Education and the State Examinations Commission, the impact of artificial intelligence brings exciting opportunities. But we must also be properly prepared and armoured, if you like, against the challenges that it will also bring. Specifically to the work of the HEAnet and the department, in the school sector, HEAnet is a key partner with my department in delivering broadband services to primary and special schools and post-primary schools through the school network. This is a long-term relationship which has seen post-primary schools provided with high-speed broadband since 2015. This year, we see the conclusion of a project under Ireland's National Recovery and Resilience Plan, funded by the Next Generation EU Recovery and Resilience Facility, to provide those primary schools outside of areas of commercial provision and also outside of the National Broadband Plan intervention area with high-speed connectivity. HEAnet implemented this project for some 990 primary and special schools, with all of these schools to be provided with high-speed connectivity by the end of the year. Together with the implementation plan of the National Broadband Plan and commercial provision, all primary schools, special schools also, will be provided with high-speed broadband through the school's broadband programme by 2024. When one considers that in 2020, somewhat less than a third of primary schools were in high speeds, the pace of delivery for this project speaks to the effectiveness of the HEAnet service and the successful relationship between the Department of Education and HEAnet. I am aware too that HEAnet supports over 210,000 students and staff at third-level institutions. 1 million students and teachers at primary and post-primary level with services including high-speed internet connectivity and IT shared services. Remarkably, that is over 1.2 million students, researchers and staff from all levels of the Irish education and research sector relying on HEAnet's national education network every single day. For my own part, I am keenly aware of the opportunities presented to our children and young people through developing digital skills. But I am also mindful of the need to be digitally literate, so as to navigate the online world in a safe and, importantly, ethical manner. A key enabler for this is through appropriate support and guidance delivered through our schools with the provision of broadband central to this, including the content filtering provided by HEAnet. Excuse me. The digital strategy for schools to 2027 sets out the Department of Education's policy approach on embedding digital technology across the curriculum and in all aspects of teaching, learning and assessment. And it also builds on the achievements of the previous strategy. The vision of the digital strategy is to empower schools to harness the opportunities of digital transformation to build digital competence and an effective digital education ecosystem so as to develop competent, critically engaged, active learners while supporting them to reach their potential and participate fully as global citizens in a digital world. The implementation plan for the strategy is currently being finalised and will be published shortly, containing detailed actions and deliverables. Online safety and the safe and ethical use of digital technologies is a key component of this digital strategy. Research indicates that young people with higher levels of digital skills are better equipped to deal with potential risks encountered online. While the use of digital technologies brings many opportunities to young people, there are certain risks that also apply. Participation in the online environment exposes our children and young people to online risks such as exposure to inappropriate content, harmful interaction with other children or adults, and openness to online bullying. It is so important in that context to support and inform parents and guardians so that they can be active and engaged in their children's online activity. Those of you gathered at this conference and those watching online bring considerable expertise and knowledge to the topic of how to harness the opportunities of digital transformation. And I welcome the learnings that will come from your deliberations so as to inform and support current and indeed future policy. Central to all of us involved in the education system in the area of digital technologies as professionals, educators, administrators and so on is supporting our children and young people so they have the opportunities to develop their digital skills, to navigate the digital world in a confident and competent manner. This is reflected also in the Department of Education's mission to ensure that all children and young people have access to a positive learning experience and to facilitate them through learning to realise their full potential and contribute to Ireland's social, economic and cultural development. Continued research and discussion, reflecting on emerging technologies, assessing impacts and developing policy responses will be a key enabler to achieve these ambitions. I'm conscious that all of you gathered here have a very, very valuable contribution to make in achieving these aims. And I note that we're also joined by former Minister Mary Mitchell O'Connor, and I'm glad to meet her earlier this morning. And so I am sure that you will all have a fruitful engagement over the coming days. As I conclude, I would again like to acknowledge the contribution of HEAnet to the education sector as a whole, and to my Department of Education in particular, and to thank them for facilitating this conference. I wish you well with your discussions, deliberations, and indeed, no doubt, lively debate over the coming days. And long may each one of us, individually and collectively, seek to do more, be more, and to become more in the best interests of society. Gur míle maith agaibh go léir.
I was going to do a Joe Wicks session, but I was voted down. So Ronan is going to resume his presentation in a moment. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for that little short intermission, best laid plans and all that. But firstly, I want to thank Minister Foley for affording us time from her obviously busy schedule, as you can see, and to thank her for her support this morning, but also to thank her for her department's support over these many years. So I was kind of doing a little reeling in the ears there for 18 months period there, and I said obviously hybrid and blended learning was there, 2 more TUs. We had Leaving Cert students sitting the state exam for the first time. Other challenges was keeping displaced Ukrainian student refugees in the education system. That's another challenge that Ireland and other allied countries have stood up to. So again, hats off to all those collective efforts in that regard. In the last 18 months, we've had sea cable explosions, the Nord Stream pipeline in September of last year, and last month a cable connecting Estonia and Sweden was damaged. Finland suspecting Russia there. And speaking of attacks and sabotage, we in this community are only too well aware that the cyber attacks remain relentless, as we know, and getting more sophisticated by the hour. On a general tech front, quite amazing to think, it's not even a year since ChatGPT came out to public release, and it's now 180 million users. And this raises concerns re the misuse of technologies, concerns re compliance with GDPR, Digital Services Acts, and so on. In the past year, our tweets have become X's, or Zeets. I've seen that written, Zeets with an X. And only last month, the EU warned Mr. Musk that his X platform is spreading illegal content and disinformation, this in the context of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So, on top of AI, VR, AR, automation of robotic processes, advances in commercially viable quantum computing coming at us, we have quite a brave new world to manage and regulate ahead. Most alarming, of course, this year, the world's oceans reached a new record high, and July was the hottest month on record, albeit in Ireland, I think the warmest on record. We're in Ireland, I think we have the wettest on record. So, how do these events and developments relate to the work that we do in our community across HEAnet and across fellow education networks? Well, I see a strong relationship in my view, for I firmly believe that our education and research community, our national networks, together with our European and global network alliances, are enabling inclusivity, achievement of digital goals, and our infrastructure and services underpin much of the research activity that is required to investigate and address our grandest challenges. So no pressure. But what I'd like to do this morning is to present an update on what HEAnet have been doing over the past 18-month period since I stood up here, and to reference some of those themes I mentioned in this retrospective. And I'll do that by referring to our HEAnet strategy, which we've captured here in a single schematic, and which has the vision of enabling Ireland's digital ambition. And I'll make reference to our 5 strategic pillars there in blue, you'll see down towards the end of the image there, of connectivity, security, identity, brokerage, and the new one we added coming into this strategic period, research engagement. Starting with connectivity and inclusivity of connectivity, a project that was born in COVID times was, of course, our Eduroam Everywhere project, which had the objective of bringing Eduroam to areas with poor quality of broadband. On this stage in March last year, I was happy to report that we had added 200, in the order of 200 locations, largely by merit of access via the public libraries. Today, I'm happy to report that over the course of last year, we added a further 300, thus the 500 plus you see in the graphic here. And this was on foot of some very good collaboration with the Office of Government CIO in broadcasting the Eduroam SSID across there, 300 or so broadband connection points under the National Broadband Plan. So I'd like to express thanks to Ken Barkley and his team at Government Networks for their help in making that happen. As Minister Foley mentioned here, I'm very happy to report that we're on the cusp of completing that very large primary school programme, which has run over last year in this, and it is targeting in the order of 990. I think Karen King told me we're at about 980, so we might cross that line next week. And very important because it ties into that timeline of that RRF funding that the Minister mentioned. So we've connected those at symmetrical 100 meg and at a pace of rollout we've never travelled so fast. So kudos to Donald O'Cruel and the HEAnet team, and indeed the family of telcos that are behind those installs as well. So that primary schools project, together with the NBI's piece of the rollout, means that all the primary schools will have a minimum of 100 meg broadband. And then thanks to our existing connections, HEAnet connections, Ireland's post-primaries are currently enjoying between 200 and 1 gig. And the impact of all that, the aggregate impact of that, we've upgraded our school's backbone capacity to 200 gigabits, so quite impressive. And in parallel, as we have to, are obliged to with the policy of the department, we've also upgraded our filtering system to protect teachers and students from inappropriate content in the classroom setting, which links back very nicely to the point that Minister Foley was made. I'm just noting that that child hasn't aged in 18 months since the last time I stood up there. Remarkable. In terms of international connectivity, I'm very happy to report in the last month, we completed a very significant improvement of our connectivity to Europe, and that's via HEAnet, via our HEAnet associated membership. And here you see the map, and you'll see that the red is fibre, so that's a good solid amount of fibre across mainland Europe, and then the blue is 25% spectrum. And that's on foot of funding in the order of 50 million. So they've upgraded and also expanded the network as well. And this procurement has had a particular beneficial outcome for Ireland as we migrated. The original plan was to have 200 gig lease lines, but we've now migrated to 2 what we call spectrum, which is 25% spectrum, aka a quarter for fibre link, which will enable us to deliver more significant capacity and scalability in the years ahead. And that scalability is of great importance because these contracts and investment term is for 15 years. So great to have that future proofing. And then looking globally, I'm a member of a HEAnet committee for my sins that is now looking to refresh intercontinental connections, where more than ever we have to consider the geopolitical risks, sea cable threats, but also to accommodate the new big data network traffic demands coming at us, such as that of the Square Kilometre Array, for example, which is an international telescope located across South Africa and Australia, and it will be the largest radio telescope in the world. Back to Irish shores, I'm also happy to report that in the past year we established a new connection to Iceland with our HEAnet Scandinavian NRAN partners. And this is a great first research use case, and it allows Meta Éireann to join forces with the United Weather Centres West collaboration to jointly utilise the new supercomputer located in Iceland. And this will result in more accurate and timely weather warnings and allow emergency services to get ahead of potential severe weather impact. Partners there are Ireland, Iceland, Denmark, and Netherlands. So not better weather, but better forecasts. Moving to our security pillar, and I'm delighted that the Minister emphasised the importance of this. And I was very pleased with government support received over 2022, enabling us to scale out 2 key initiatives under the security banner, namely establishment of a sectoral security operations centre and security information and event management service SEAM. And secondly, in parallel, expansion of our ICT security services, advisory services to all eligible higher and further education institutions, obviously with the objective of endeavouring to protect and mitigate against cyber attack. And when I stood here in March of last year, we're in the throes of a SOC and SEAM business case. I'm looking at Michael and Bryne in the front row, and the great work that went in there. And that business case was presented to board in May of last year, and I was delighted that we received confirmation of initial tranche of funding from the Department of Education and Defence just 2 months later. That's quite impressive. So they really appreciated the compelling nature of the business case. So specific thanks to Deirdre MacDonald of the Department of Education for enabling us to fast-track this development in 2022, enabling us to come out of the trap swiftly in 23. Fast forward to today, and we are forecasting that in the order of 16 clients will be onboarded on our SOC and SEAM service by the end of the year, with 9 more clients in the hopper for 24. But I'll stop there because I don't want to steal the thunder of the talk that follows on SOC and SEAM. And on the security team, very pleased to have Rick Ferguson, Info Security Hall of Fame inductee, and Dr. Richard Brown from the National Cybersecurity Centre on our HEAnet Conference programme. Identity and Educate. Educate is one of our most silent successes since its launch back in 2010. Today, it's supporting in the order of 40 million access authentications annually. In the past period, we've been supporting TU mergers, which I mentioned, as they seek to consolidate their identities to a single TU domain. And in terms of spreading Educate adoption, we're working closely with 2 ETB clients, assisting them in Educate adoption, and then in turn, further EduRoam expansion. And lastly, this one could easily sit under the security pillar. We continue to support a range of multi-factor authentication services to better protect us all as we authenticate and gain access and log on. We just love those challenges above MFA, don't we? Necessary evil. Brokerage, and we continue to generate substantial savings to the sector in the order of 7 million plus, as per our value for money report. Recent achievements over the past period: establishment of a telephony framework. I know that's of interest to many here. Refresh of the server framework. That's a recent achievement with our good colleagues at the OGP. and refresh of the LMS or VLE framework, whichever TLA you prefer, I know is of importance to many here, so we've refreshed that too. And I think it's fair to say the right language, Garvin, is to say we are bracing ourselves for the refresh of the HEAnet IIS framework. To note, this attracted in excess of 1,000 responses last time around, and I think we're anticipating even greater on that. To clarify, Garvin and the brokers team are deeply involved in the HEAnet project. And breaking news since yesterday, we have a new DPS for online collaboration tools, and that's in partnership with SURF, our Dutch friends. And also, just to extend appreciation to our Dutch colleagues at SURF, and it's for the benefit of all NRENs, they've been progressing and driving data protection compliance of tech players such as Zoom and Google. And they've done this at their own financial cost, but all NRENs and users will benefit. So really appreciate the good work they are in encouraging the big cloud providers to ensure they're fully compliant. Research engagement, that's the HEAnet Cloud Framework is a nice segue to some of the work we're doing under research engagement, and particularly OCRA, that's Open Clouds for Research Environments, and that's EC funding to encourage researchers to use research platforms, and its successor, EOSC Future. I'm happy to report that in terms of Irish research wins under OCRA and EOSC Future, this has reached in the order of 2 million in total for Irish-led projects, including those of Insight at University of Galway, ICRAG at UCD, and research centres at TCD and UCC. And we've also secured funding under Ireland's National Open Research Action Plan via NORF, where HEAnet are leading an Irish federated storage proof of concept, leveraging EU DAT services, if you're familiar with them, and that's secured in the order of 180k. Another significant funding win, and there's a good pattern here, relates to a 10 million joint EC and government funding for the Ireland QCI consortium on foot of signing the Euro QCI declaration last year. HEAnet are part of this consortium, where our interest here is in quantum communications infrastructure, not necessarily quantum computing. But I like to think you'd see some really very significant wins there for the Irish research community, and we hope more will follow. But I think really important to note that alignment with HEAnet and EOSC and other European activities is key here, as it is through these partnerships that we can access EC funding, but moreover deliver on EC digital agendas and generate greater research outcomes for society. Have I got time? I'll sneak it in. Our research engagement, Roberto Sabatino, asked me to mention the work of Resin and to note 2 updates from the group. They have an intention to develop framework contracts for research management services such as repositories, grant management systems, and they've just released version 1 of their maturity assessment model, which was a 1-year piece of work led by UL, so well done there. And there's a workshop on Resin later this morning. I quickly wanted to return to one of those OCRA funding success stories, as later this morning, Andy Donald of the Insight SFI Research Centre at University of Galway will update us on this very important project they're doing on aortic care. You can see the graphs there. And on foot of securing, I think it was in the order of 600,000 of OCRA funding. This has allowed them, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, Andy, this has allowed them to access AWS, that's Amazon AWS compute services provided via Rackspace, has enabled them to reduce computational processing times down from 150 hours to 10 minutes. Pretty good, eh? So there's a nice circle of life here as these cloud services are drawn down off the HEAnet Cloud Framework, where we have deep involvement with our brokerage team, which is then, of course, promoted via our research engagement activities. And, of course, these cloud providers are then accessed over our HEAnet low latency network. So a nice joined up value chain out there, I think, you'd like to see. And just in reference to some of the grand challenges I mentioned earlier, if you wish to explore more stories of global networking enabling positive learning and research outcomes, I'd like to refer you to this very informative resource, which is called In the Field, which relates stories on where research and education networks are being utilised to solve real-world challenges. Just a little sample. There is one related to that square kilometre array I mentioned, genomic data sharing, water quality data, and other on weather and climate modelling. Grand challenges indeed. One other of interest is Submerse, which is another EU project of interest that uses sensors attached to the sea cables to detect tsunamis and other movements on seabeds, including sabotage. So here we see the illustration of the importance of collaboration across EU works. 2 more stories beyond our 5 strategic pillars, behind the curtain, if you will. Firstly, to advise that we've moved to a new state-of-the-art office located in North Dock 2. There it is, right beside the Tree Arena. And again, I want to express particular thanks to Deirdre MacDonald and her team at the Department for supporting us in this regard. We very much appreciate the financial support, and we interpret this as a strong vote of confidence in what we do and what we plan to do in the years ahead. And secondly, I'm particularly pleased to report that we've secured the Keep Well accreditation for a further 2-year period, that's the 23 and 24. And on top of that, we were recognised as a top 100 in wellbeing workplaces earlier this year. So kudos in particular to our people operations team who keep driving for continuous improvement. But it is a collective win for the entire HEAnet team and reflects the investment we place in our people and in our positive culture. It's a pleasure to work with such colleagues on a daily basis. Okay, it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of recent events. I'm really proud of what we achieved over the 18-month period. But to note, this work and impact can only happen on foot of sustained funding in our people, our infrastructure and our services. And we very much appreciate the continued support of government, funders, our client members and our partners across HEAnet and other NRENs. As only by working together do we have some chance of meeting the greatest challenges that lie ahead of us. That leaves me only to say thank you, both here and remotely, for your support over these past 18 months. I respectfully look forward to your continued support over the next period. And before closing, I'd like to extend thanks to the HEAnet board that volunteered their time in supporting the HEAnet mission, and to extend particular thanks to our new chair since April of this year, Professor Mike Murphy, and thanks also to his predecessor, Professor Anne Scott, who very ably acted as chair since 2019. So thank you both most sincerely. Last again, I'd like to thank Minister Foley for her support here this morning. Your attendance was very much appreciated, Minister. Thank you all for your attention, both here and remotely, and please do enjoy the conference. Good morning.